Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and we've got my current build of Red Purple Luffy in the OP09 meta. I've been playing this deck a lot in the last couple weeks. It's my favorite deck right now, and if I was to join a tournament tomorrow, I'd be playing these exact 50 right here. So it might change in the next couple weeks, but I really do enjoy what this deck does and where it's at right now, and kind of its matchups into the kind of top 5 kind of leaders that are in the game right now. So we're going to go over the deck in general, some tech choices, some additional choices you guys could make, and we have an example match at the end, so you guys can check that out. I've been playing this a lot on my YouTube and Twitch live streams too, so you can make sure to check that out, including a video just the other day where I was trying to get to 31 wins with since it was my 31st birthday. So that was kind of a lot of fun, a lot of games with that one, and specifically with this list as well, so you can check that out too. So other than that, if you guys want more content in the future for the One Piece card game, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. I'll be doing other leaders than Red Purple Luffy for videos and content and such, but I do just love playing this one, and it's been a lot of fun. So if there's any other leaders you guys want for the OP09 meta, please let me know, and we'll do our best to try to get there too. So jumping on into this one though, and just kind of how this leader works. In case you guys don't know, it's a 6k leader with only 3 health and has activate main once per turn. If your field has 0 Dawn or your field has 8 or more Dawn, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck active. So you do get to get some good resources from using this leader effect, especially in the late game, which is where you're generally supposed to be using it. So I really can kind of say that this is the main reason I play this deck and how I build it, is trying to take advantage of that activate main every turn in the late game. Essentially having a 6k leader with 11 Dawn is really strong, especially with all the kind of support cards we have. So starting at the low end, we do have 4 copies of Nami. This searches most cards in our deck, which is really nice, including our all-stars of like 9 cost Secret Rare Luffy. We'll talk about this guy a little bit more later, but this guy is really good, and I think we are one of the better leaders to take advantage of how strong he is. We also have Gum Giant, which we can use to find, but not find off Nami. But this card's broken. This is the reason this deck I think is viable right now, is just how good this card is and how good it is with us as a 6k leader in general. And then we also have 1 copy of Trafalgar Law. This card feels like it whiffs a lot, and I did want to just kind of have a swag copy of it because of we want to go first. We want to be on the odd curve more times than not, and being able to use this card to find our pieces. And it doesn't find specifically Nami, and it doesn't find Gum Giant. So those are 8 less targets, but there's 24 targets with it. It should be hitting more often than not, which is nice, and it's just like a one of that we play in the deck too. So other than that, our next turn is Zoro Juro. So if we're going first, we play this on 3 and hope our opponent doesn't have a way to answer it. Most decks don't, outside of Rob Lucci right now. Dolphy does too, but it does bounce it to hand, so that's not as bad, I think, in that scenario. He goes up Bond Clay. This is probably the better card in for ramping consistently. It doesn't do anything against Blackbeard if they use their leader effect with it, but this card is really good, and I will unfortunately say I think you do need to play 4 copies of this card in the deck, which I do know is a bit of a gap for some people. I know this is a pretty expensive and hard to find card right now, but you do kind of need it as many copies as you can. But I will show some examples of some alternative cards if you guys don't have this right now, but it is very good in this deck specifically. And then after that, so we go from 3, our next Dawn turn is 5, and we go to 6 with either Zoro or Zoro, or if we go from 4, we go up to 7 afterwards. So either one of those are good, but if we're at 5 Dawn, our best play is to play something like Monkey D. Luffy. We play Queen, or preferably the Yasop. This will make our leader a 7k, which is super strong. It means most people won't be able to attack into it all, which is great, especially if they're playing cards on curve. It's just a good card. Sometimes the Dawn ×1 when attacking shows up too, and this also gets some value late game, which we'll talk about a little bit. But I've been enjoying this card at 5 or 4 copies, and it's our kind of best card to play on curve at 5 or 6 Dawn. And then generally there's some turns where we'll be at 7 Dawn, which generally happens if we are going second and we go 4 from Bond Clay into 7 on the next turn, or if we're same kind of thing if we play Zoro and go in there, or even if sometimes we don't get a ramp early game, or either they answer the Zoro Juro, we just don't get there. So we play this on 3, we play like Yasop on 5, and then on 7 Dawn we play either a Sanji or we play out a Eustace Captain Kidd, which we're playing at 4 or 3 copies respectively. Both these cards are really good on curve. Specifically, Kidd makes us a 7k leader once again, and most decks will have a hard time answering this immediately, so this being able to stay on board for the rest of the game does help you quite a lot. And then also Sanji's really good too. So being able to play this card, you get to a 7k rush, but also there are some times where the removal aspect from this card is very good. In the mirror match, being able to rest down their Bond Clay and attack into it with leader is fantastic. Four copies of this is really good when we're playing especially so much of our Straw Hats cards. So that's where that is there. And then so we go from 7 to 6. And then after that, we go up to 8. We use our leader effect to go up to 9, and we play either our Linlin or our Monkey D. Luffy. So Linlin's been a really good card, in my opinion, for this deck. The fact that it has removal, the fact that it can buy us another turn, especially when we're a 6k or sometimes a 7k leader if we already have Eustace Kid out. This has been really, really strong in my testing, and I've been enjoying playing this. The fact that it's also a 9k is really good against Black Yo Luffy specifically, so this has been a good card for that matchup in general. And then we also have the 9-drop Secret Rare Luffy, which I mentioned earlier. This card is really good in this deck. So we're able to play this at 9. The fact that it draws us a card is very good. We are able to have like a 6k swing and then a 10k swing with this one, which is really great. And it's just very strong for applying pressure. And if we're ramping into this guy, most people won't be able to answer this card immediately. So 2 10k swings that can't really get contested puts a lot of pressure against most decks in the game right now. And then lastly, as mentioned, we have the Gum Gum Giant in there. So that's kind of like the main play for the deck, and kind of some combos what we want to do. Most turns towards the late game we'll start at 9 or 10 Dawn. And what we can do with that is, like, if we're at 10 Dawn, we can do something like play Luffy. We go from, we lose a Dawn there, but we can use our leader effect to get one back. So that means we get a 10k attack, a draw. We can put a Dawn underneath our leader to get a 7k attack on top of that. And then we use the we have one open for Gum Gum Giant, right? It's really easy to be able to play these cards, use all our Dawn for the turn, and then get a Dawn back with our Luffy effect. So we put like a lot of pressure and we don't really lose anything too. So that's kind of why, like, the most of the top end, you are actually all of our top end just kind of prioritizes the idea that we lose a Dawn on play, which means that we get to play these not only earlier in the game, but also for less. Because if you want to think of it this way, we're playing the Sanji for 6 if we get the Dawn back active from our leader effect. So that's really great. Same thing with Eustace Captain Kid. We're able to get that ability. So if we're at 7, we play this for 6. We make our leader a 7k, and then we can put 3 more Dawn underneath it to make it a 10k and still have one open. Linlin as well, healing a card, 7k attack, and then still having one open for Gum Gum. That is a lot of pressure for a lot of decks in a lot of ways, so I have been enjoying that. So some kind of weaker cards for the deck too, and ones we haven't really mentioned. Frankie, a lot of people are probably already saying, like, why are we playing this card? Why is this better than Nami? Why is this better than Queen? And so a couple of reasons for it. One, it's a Straw Hat Crew, so it's searchable, which is nice to have a searchable blocker. But there's some kind of weird scenarios where the Dawn -2 actually comes into fruition for us. The fact that we want to lose more Dawn. The easiest advantage is, like, if we have Sanji here, we can use this effect to, like, lose Dawn, and then we can play it for 3 and then gain it back. So that's really handy to play 2 blockers in 1 turn. There's also some kind of weird plays where we can play this for 4. We lose the 2 Dawn, and then we can play this Sanji for 3 or for 7. So for 10 Dawn, we can play Frankie and Sanji, or Frankie and Eustace Captain Kid in the same turn. We won't be able to have a Dawn open for Gum Gum Giant, but sometimes that's just better than the alternative. And then just the fact that we can do some, like, neat little plays like late game. It's just like an okay card, right? Queen's generally, I think, a little bit better, but it's not as searchable. It being a 5 cost means that Doflamingo has a harder time removing this guy, and so that does come up too. But I do think, like, the Dawn minus from Frankie doesn't really affect us that much, and we'd rather it be that than Onami, especially since if they don't get rid of this blocker, it can attack for damage later. And the Dawn minus, just the fact that it makes our plays cheaper that turn because we lose Dawn, is better than, like, Nami just being a 2k that cycles without losing the Dawn. We really don't mind losing 1 or 2 Dawn every turn because we generate it back for free and is back and active. So that's kind of the idea for it. And then Luffy, this is the newest ad for the deck, and but I've been really enjoying it at 2 copies. A lot of people have been playing, like, Goldie Roger and Jambé, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but this is just a kind of a compromise for kind of a lot of different cards. Sometimes, like, we don't find Yasop or just playing Queen as a 5/6 blocker vanilla on curve at 5 Dawn doesn't feel as good. So like, being able to play Luffy, say, you know what, 5/6 attack and then 6k attack with our leader is really good. If we're going first and we hit Zoro, we can do a 5k with Zoro, get a Dawn back, play Luffy for 5, 6k attacks, and then another 6k attack with our leader, which is really good. And then, like, that's like best curve, right? We go from 3 to 6, and then we start at 8, go to 9, and we can play Luffy on, like, our 4th turn, 3rd, 4th turn, whatever turn it is. It is way too early, and there's just so much advantage and pressure we get from it. So that's kind of the idea. And then, like, against stuff like Blackbeard, this gets around all their, like, negation stuff. If you hit them down to 0 life, which should be pretty easy in the matchup, this can just win you the game. And then also just some other kind of fringe matchups. This is just like an okay card that You know, sometimes Jambé would just be better. Sometimes Goldie Rogers better. But this being like a flexible card where I really do like our 5-drop spots. For example, we can do something like play Luffy, attack with it, play Queen, lose a Dawn, and then we can, you know, use our leader effect to get the Dawn back and get that back, right? Same kind of thing with like the 4-drop Frankie. Sometimes with Yasop, like late game, playing able to play Queen into Yasop and being able to 7k leader, play a blocker, make 2 6ks, and then have a Dawn open for Gum Gum Giant. It's really tricky for some decks to really answer that aggressively. So that's why I think like Trafalgar Law, if you don't want like this card, you can play a 3rd copy of Queen instead. I might be doing that in the future, but other than that, I think it's been pretty solid for the deck in general. So this is my my 50 cards right now. A couple cards that I do want to go over that I've been considering, and you know, when I've been live streaming these last couple weeks, these have been cards people have been mentioning and asking why I'm not playing it. So first, real quick, if you guys don't have 4 copies of Bond Clay, Basil Hawkins from set 1 is fine. Aandroidd from Star Deck 5 is fine. Also Missile Sunday. This card I'm actually really close to playing, but like late game it doesn't do as much. And I'd rather play like Queen late game. So sometimes like the Dawn -2 trigger out of life comes up, but with us only having like 3 life, it doesn't that often. So if this was a Straw Hat card, I would play it, but it's a broke work, so we won't. We do want some other blockers potentially too, so we got 4 copy, or the 4-drop Onami is mentioned. Uses Captain Kid is fine, but since we kind of have its effect baked into our leader, if we're at 10 Dawn and we only lose 1, we don't get 2 Dawn back, right? Because that's just not how it works. So sometimes Kid's fine. If you like playing the Useless Captain Kid, you can play there. Songoro is also like a not terrible card. We play it on 5 and then it draws us late game pretty consistently. It's a little bit slow and can be answered, but I don't hate the card either. Ace is also like a really interesting card. We don't get the rush from it, but the protection that on board that it you know, lets us have is really nice. It makes it difficult for them to really remove this and then have like 6k 5-drop like Ace and our 6k leader just makes it like some tricky stuff. So I do like the ad there. I know a lot more people are playing like more removal stuff. So we've got like Ben Beckman, we've got Newgate, and we've got Silvers. These are really great removal cards in general, especially if we ramp on into them. Beckman's been really close to be added to my list, but I do like my 7-drop Sanji just a little bit more since the rush is greater and the fact that we are able to like it's a Straw Hat and all that stuff. And we again can pay for it for 6 late game with our leader effect kind of skill. So I think that's good. Dragon's very close to being added to the deck too, being able to have a 9k attack and then put 2 Dawn on our leader. So 8 and 9 out of nothing on board is really strong, but I haven't made it there. I know a lot of people are asking me already before this video is over, why am I not playing Edward Newgate? It's not a bad card, and I if you guys like this, you can definitely play it, but in more scenarios than not, I find that Linlin is just the better card in general. The fact that it gets the immediate removal, the fact that, you know, you're able to get some immediate value from it, the fact that it loses Dawn is actually generally a benefit for us because we get the Dawn back from our leader effect. This is not a terrible card, and I would never like say it's the worst card to be playing in the deck, and don't let me stop you from playing it, but I think that Linlin was better in most matchups. This is specifically better if you want to beat Doflamingo a little bit harder, but I think the matchup's evenish from the games I've been playing with the current build as well. So, and then for 10 drops, we've got 10 drop Luffy. I can't play this deck without mentioning this. This is the way that you get a Dawn back active if you're at 0. You lose 10 Dawn, then you use the effect from your leader to get 1. You get 1 back from this Luffy. You start your turn at 4 Dawn, and then you go up to 5 Dawn with these 1-drop effect or 1 Dawn effect. So you can get back up there pretty quickly with this one. But I just don't like it as much. If you want to play like a 1-copy swag copy, go for it. But again, it's not as favorable for my personal uses. I played a lot of this 10-drop Shanks in this deck, and if you play it, I don't think it's bad. Especially if you're able to play 7-drop Useless Kid, and then you're able to play Shanks. You can, you know, play it, attack with Useless Kid, and then you lose a Dawn, you gain the Dawn back, so you have 1 open for Gum Gum. This card's really good at doing that, but I found it like a little bit clunky. It's a little bit harder to take advantage of it in a lot of matchups. So I took it out, and I haven't missed it since, but I really do like the card. I think it's really sick. And then Goldie Roger, same kind of thing. There can be some kind of like, you know, from behind wins where you are at 0 life and then you play this Goldie Roger and then your opponent can't block anything. But generally speaking, I felt like this was just kind of more of a swag card. I'd rather just play like something like Usohachi or Sanji where I can just rest their blocker instead and still like not really lose anything. And I didn't find a lot of like, there's sometimes where I could win with this one, but mostly I have other ways to get there, so I don't feel Goldie Rogers there as much. And then a couple of events, Gum Gum Jet Gatling. If you're playing any of the zero cost 3K counters, I think Gum Gum Jet Gatling is the one you do because you do get the ramp from Trigger, which usually comes up a little bit more often than the minus 3K. If you like the kick course, go there, but I'd play Jet Gatling. Jambe, if you don't like Rush Luffy, you can play this card. It's never a bad card for a 6K leader that can take advantage of it. But I think the 5-drop Luffy was just better from my own testing. It's to die for, and also Lead Performer Disaster. I know both these cards have been used for ramp for it, especially if you want to try to beat Blackbeard, since they can get the removal on your Joro Joro, and they can prevent your for your Bond Clay from being able to use its on play effect. So these are ways to get that ramp, but they are a little bit dead in hand. If I was to play one, I'd probably play It's to Die For, just because against something like Doflamingo, if they play like a Weevil on turn 2, you can use this and get a double ramp off of it, which is really, really good, and can really set you up for the rest of the game. Otherwise, Lead Performer Disaster is probably the better one in general. But the fact that, you know, this one's more flexible, you can play it on turn 2, whether going first or second, is a little bit better than this one, which you can only play on turn 2 if you go second. So other than that, I think that's kind of all the cards I've kind of considered. There might be others too. If you guys have any questions, let me know. But I really have been putting a lot of time into figuring out the best way to build this. I really think this is the best one from what I've been testing as well, but I know that there's other builds as well too. So that's kind of my thoughts on all of this, and let's go to our example game. All right, here's our example game. We're playing Orphis, who is playing Rob Lucci. This is from my 31st birthday stream as well. So we have almost 50 games with the deck. If you guys want to check it out, it is linked in the description as well. But we are going second against Rob Lucci, and we do have the Bond Clay in the hand, which is really nice for us. They're going to go 8 into lead. We're going to take it real quick, and we are going to get passed back. So we will be playing the Bond Clay. We're going to go a 7K swing into leader, and we're going to be going to 7 Dawn next turn. So 7 to 5, and they do take it, and it will be passed back to us. And they will be at 5, so they will have some ways to potentially remove this Bond Clay, but likely won't have a lot. If they do, it is pretty expensive, and us going to 7 next turn is really nice as well. So we are thinking about their next play here, and it is a bit tough as well, since we are putting a lot of pressure in. Yeah, this is kind of like the weird turn for Rob Lucci. So they're just going 6 into us. I'm thinking about getting out of it. Yeah, we're going to use the Zoro Juro. That card's a little bit tougher in this matchup. They're going to be playing out the Khalifa there, draw 2, and trashing 2, and get some cycle there, and passing back to us. So we're going to be playing the Sanji on 7. Since we are at 7 here. So we're going to use the effect here to be able to, 1, lose a Dawn, but then we also have the Khalifa there. We are just going to decide to swing into it just in case there's anything. Being able to attack into something is a little bit tough. I was thinking about attacking Bond Clay into it, but then it would have been something that their leader could have swung into for free. So I think it was fine here. So we put them down to 3 life. They take the 7K swing, which is good for us. And they've already, they do have a really big hand size, but nothing really on board, and they're already down to 3 life. So going to their 7 Dawn turn, they could be playing a Jack here and using that with leader effect to get rid of the Bond Clay, but they won't be like doing a lot of pressure, and our leader won't be taking any damage here too, which is totally fine, especially since we are going to be playing the 9-drop Luffy on the next turn. They are going to use the -1 there on the Sanji and just do a blank 5K into our 6K leader. They're going to play the Spandam there. And I think part of the reason they're doing that is just to be able to get cards in the trash, so they are able to use like a Tempest Kick or something. But so far I'm feeling like they're not really finding their pieces they need. So putting the rest of the cards there, and they are going to be able to use the Tempest Kick and then Rob Lucci to get rid of the Bond Clay. But the Sanji surviving is really, really nice. These 4/6 Luccis are a little bit troublesome since they do pressure our leader with no Dawn attachment. But being able to go to 9 Dawn here with leader effect, we're going to start with a 6 into 5. They are going to get to take it or get out of it. They're going to also get out of this 7, and we are going to play out this Luffy. So I was thinking about playing the Mom to get rid of the Rob Lucci and heal 1, but we're fine here. We do kind of need a Gum Gum Giant since we haven't seen one in this game, and we will be going to 10 Dawn with 1 open on the next turn, since currently we're at 8. But I don't mind tapping out here. I'm not afraid of losing this next turn. They're going 6 into 6. We are going to use a... we're actually going to take it since we are hoping to find a better something here. I think we are a little bit afraid that they are going to try to pressure our Sanji or our Luffy. So might have been able to get out of that, but we decided just to take it and go down to 1. I think it's also the fact that we are playing Lin next turn means that if you want to think of it this way, it's kind of a cycle. We'll just discard a card and heal 1 up again. So because sometimes there's spots where there's too many cards in hand, I'm kind of worried about it, but they're going to use the Ice Age, they're going to get the -1, and they will be able to get a pretty good Gecko Moria play here. So playing the Rebecca and the Helmeppo, using the effect to get us into the removal range of a Rob Lucci. They do have the Spandine and Trash as well, so using the effect to be able to play another 4-drop Rob Lucci that's also in Trash there, and then get rid of our 9-drop Luffy. So it takes a couple pieces to get there, but they do get the removal on it. So it is a bit of a tight spot, but we do have so many cards in hand that I'm not super worried about it. We are going to play the Lin, I believe. Yeah, we're going to use this. Lose a Dawn here and gain a life, and we're getting rid of a Yasop there. And I was thinking pretty heavily if we want to put the Rob Lucci into their life, but I decided against it. We're going 7 into their leader, which with them having 5 cards in hand is pretty expensive, and then going another 7 and they're getting the Rebecca block. So they're in a pretty tough spot. We're pretending like we have Gum Giant. This is something I unless like it's really beneficial to tap out. I generally recommend this is the best way to do it. Just always leave 1 Dawn open, make it so that they have to play around it. It's generally a pretty good move. So we get out of the 6. They're going another 6. I'll likely Yasop out. Yeah, sure do. We're in a bit of a tough spot because we don't have like another 7 or 9 costs to play next turn. And it just really depends if they're able to remove either the Lin or the Sanji. So if they go 9 into our Luffy, we'll likely take it. Oh, they're going another 6, which I will Yasop out. And they put a Kaido in there, which is a bit of a terrifying card because we do kind of care about every card in our hand currently, but they do have to kind of be worried about losing on this next turn too. If they can't get rid of my Sanji, if they're going to life. All right, so we finally find our Gum Giant, which is nice. They're going to use Ice Age and another Gecko Moria, and I think they have to put a Rob Lucci into the trash to be able to get rid of it. Yeah, Rebecca. And likely, what? Spandine or something to get some card draw. Yeah, Spandine there. All right. And they're playing, the Spandam, and then they're going to play the Spandine. Using the effect, get the removal of Rob Lucci on the Sanji. And we could go for game here. We could use Uso Hachi, but I also feel like we're in a spot where it's pretty tough for us to lose. If we just kind of go defensive and push a lot of value pressure. So finding the 4th copy of Yasop there is actually really, really nice there. And I was thinking pretty heavily, like, do we just go for game? And I decided just to be a little bit of a coward and to not to. So we're going to go 9k, I believe, with this Lin into leader, 9-5, which will likely get their Rebecca block. We get to attack with leader 2, but man, this is kind of where the spots of this deck kind of like the decision making, right? Like they had hard times getting out of 7Ks earlier. They did get some extra cycle, and but 6 cards in hand, I'm guessing it's a little bit weaker. So I really had a bit of a question of what's the best play. So we're going to just go 9-5. Obviously, if they don't block here, I think we have the go ahead to just Uso Hachi and go for game. So they do block. We are going to use the Frankie here, so lose 2, and I think we're going to get rid of a Uso Hachi. Oh, and then we get a queen too, which is really nice. I think the Yasop is likely better, though, to just prevent us from not losing next turn and put a little bit more pressure this turn too, since we did already lose the Dawn. So we are going to play the Yasop. We're going to use our Luffy here. We're currently a 7k. We're going to turn ourselves into are just going to keep it as 7k. And this is the idea for this was that, 7 and 8 are pretty similar. I think that they would have to get rid of a couple more cards, and I'd rather have like an extra Gum Giant in case it's needed, which is not unlikely for us to find. This is our first one that's in our hand right now. We're going to get a draw off of our life and a draw off the top 2 from another giant. So just being able to say, you know what, I might have 2 in hand. Most people kind of play around it a little differently, which I think is good. And if they think that you have 2 dead cards in hand, they play a little bit differently too. Well, meanwhile, our hand is really, really fresh, right? We've got 2 2Ks, 2 1Ks, and the giant. I'm not super afraid of losing. So we're going to get out of this one. It's going to be 2K, 1K to do so. I know if they had any removal of Frankie, they would have done it immediately. So in my mind, they have no real good removal for Frankie right now. And they're going to decide on the next one. Yeah, and this is usually kind of how it is. Like it reminds me a lot of like Whitebeard in like set 2, 3, and 4, where you just kind of have to say like, do they have the counter get out of it? Like, what's the numbers for it? And this was a bit of a choice here. I think I just needed to use the queen to get out of it, which we do. Yeah, 8 into 7. They've got 3 more attacks on board, and likely all that they'll have for this one. I kind of need to keep the Usohachi in hand too, because it is our way to get around if they play like a Rebecca off a Moria or something. So we do have to respect that. And I think their best play is just to keep going with 7s. But it's really tricky because then like you lose out on Dawn for what you could be playing defensively. They are pretty weak defensively right now. 1 life, no blockers on board, only 5 cards in hand. And they're going 9 into the 7, and this is what I take. I end up taking this one. And I think maybe if they wanted to go that route, like 7 with the Rob Lucci, either one of them was likely better. And I 7 or 9, I likely would have taken either one at that point. And now they just need to know, like, do they go for game? Do they what's their kind of options here? So they currently have 9 Dawn with a 5-drop body and a 6K body, and we're a 7K leader. So with that, they have 18. They can do 2 9s. 2 9s would potentially get there if we get nothing good off of our Gum Gum, and they can't get rid of our Frankie blocker too, who's just been kind of chilling here. So yeah, they're going 10, which is the good number for us. You know what? Gum Gum Giant is a pretty good card. No blocks here. And we heal that. And if they have any way to get rid of Frankie, they're going to have to invest some Dawn into doing so. And then we're not worried. So we've got 2K, 1K in hand. They're going to play out the Rebecca. And they're just going to pass with that extra Dawn open. So we're going to use the Usohachi, get the rest on the Rebecca. Yeah, get the Dawn. Not that it really matters. Yeah, we'll start with a quick 5 just in case they have something in life that can interact with this. We'll go 7 with the Yasop, get the -1K on literally anything, doesn't really matter. And then they concede from there since we've got some big swings. So honestly, a pretty close game. I think this is one of our tighter matchups, usually pretty even from it, but we kind of get these kind of end game scenarios where it's really tricky for them to press damage. And the fact that we're a 6K leader, that we get Gum Gum Giant getting us to 10K means that Gecko Moria 9Ks don't affect us as much of other decks, which is really nice too. But this is the build. These are the games. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to watch the rest of them, you can find them on my YouTube channel, linked in the description for the video for this one. And thank you guys so much for everything. So that's going to be it for us. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.